All right, good morning. This presentation will be recorded and posted to the SLELO PRISM website. I will send all attendees a link to the recording along with links to the resources I mentioned during the presentation. Okay. My name is again Robert Smith, and I'm the Terrestrial Restoration and Resiliency Coordinator for SLELO PRISM. What I'm going to talk about today is the Urban Forest Sustainability Initiative, which is a relatively new program that we came up with last year. It's designed to assist urban communities with maintaining and increasing urban forest resiliency to invasive pests, pathogens, and climate change. Before I get going any further, to avoid any confusion, when I refer to the urban forest, I mean all the trees found in a village or city, and not just those ones that you see along the sidewalk. This presentation is based on the SLELO PRISM's Urban Forest Sustainability Guide, which goes into more detail than I have time for to talk about in today's presentation. If you're interested in reading the guide, it can be found on the SLELO PRISM Urban Forest webpage, and the link for the webpage will be in the follow-up email I send you. So what can this program offer to Massena? Well, just as I mentioned, we have Urban Forest Sustainability Guide that was created with the help of many people, including some state foresters that collaborated with us from the New York State Urban and Community Forestry Program. The guide outlines techniques that urban foresters can use to increase urban forest resiliency. We have a presentation up there that discusses the guide, which you're attending right now. Urban forest resources that we have on our SLELO PRISM Urban Forest website. And whoops, and it's a typo here. It's there. You should have $5,000 there. It's like reimbursement for the purchase.
Robert, we were about to have a fight over that one.
Not it. It's definitely 5,000. That's a whole other story. It's like they're this, you know, this was a repeat slide from another one that got 2,000. You get 5,000.
Once you go to 10, we'll listen again.
Here. Problem solved.
There you go.
All right. A reimbursement of up to $5,000 for the purchase of non-invasive tree species, which we're defining non-invasive tree species as those not listed on IMAP invasives, which is like a website that the New York Natural Heritage Program runs. So they have a listing of invasive plants, or ones that have showed invasive tendencies. And so if you order a tree up to trees up to $5,000 that are not on their list of invasives, it's like we'll reimburse you for them. And also we're available to answer questions, attend meetings, give presentations on invasive species and urban forest related topics. So you can keep turning to us after this, this presentation's done as a resource.
Robert, where are you in Syracuse?
No, actually we're in Pulaski. It's like well, we will be in Pulaski again. Our office has been closed for over a year now because of the pandemic. And so if you look behind me, this is my living room, but our normal office is in Pulaski. I'm just currently in Black River because that's where I live.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, next. Today's agenda. The agenda of my presentation consists of the benefits of the urban forest sustainability, urban forest resiliency plan, and pocket parks. All right, there are many benefits that the urban forests provide to the community. And these include improving air quality through removal of pollutants such as ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter. They also reduce greenhouse gases by sequestering atmospheric carbon from CO2 into their tissues and by reducing fossil fuel-based energy used for heating and cooling. The urban forest actually is quite significant in its effects at this when you consider that the urban areas of the US are estimated to contain 5.5 billion trees that sequester approximately 28.2 million tons of carbon each year. That's a lot. So, urban forest makes a big difference in reducing greenhouse gases. Also reduces stormwater runoff by capturing water along its leaves, stems, and trunk. Planting of trees over impervious surfaces can reduce surface runoff by up to 20%. Roots can further reduce runoff by breaking up compacted soil, allowing for more water infiltration. This capturing of stormwater by trees and other plants is part of what is referred to as a green infrastructure and has been found to reduce the cost of creating more gray infrastructure such as gutters, drains, piping, and collection systems. It also reduces heating, cooling expenses. Heat absorbing structures such as pavement, concrete, bricks, and other construction material tend to make urban areas warmer than rural areas. This is an effect called the urban heat island. And trees in urban communities can reduce this heat island effect by providing shade and through what's called evapotranspiration. They have been found to reduce air temperatures during the peak summer by 2 to 9 degrees and could save up to 56% on annual air conditioning costs. And next, they improve aesthetics and property values. Trees add landscape variation through different colors, textures, forms, and densities. They also distract the eye from less attractive features like parking lots, walls, highways. Having trees and other vegetation on residential property has been found to add up to 37% to its value. And last but not least, they also provide food and shelter for wildlife within urban communities. Parts of trees such as leaves, buds, flowers, fruit, wood are used by many types of animals as food sources. In addition, many of these animals use trees for building nests and shelter. Trees adjacent to a river or a stream in urban areas help maintain water temperatures suitable for aquatic animals. And they provide fallen debris and roots for use as food and hiding places for these animals. All of these great benefits I mentioned are really dependent on the health of the urban forest. And so sustaining a healthy forest will sustain these benefits. As a lead-in to my next section, I would like to talk a little bit about the history of tree planting in the 20th century. During the early 20th century, the American elm was planted in large numbers there throughout the US in the urban areas. By the 1930s, an invasive pathogen, Dutch elm disease, had started to kill off some of these trees. By the 1970s, they had killed off 40 million of their elm trees. You know, and many of these trees, after they died, were replaced by either maples or ashes. You know, moving forward to 2002, emerald ash borer is discovered in southeastern Michigan. And it's since killed tens of millions of ash trees across 30 states. You know, basically the take-home message from this is that this history is that repeating poor management decisions, like planning about they're replacing a whole lot of one species with a whole lot of one or two species there, you know, it results in the same problem repeating itself over and over again. You know, and while you can replace these trees as they die, after they die, right, with new trees, you know, it's costly to do that, time consuming, and it will take decades before you're able to get the same kind of benefits out of those trees as say the mature ash tree that you once had that you had to take down. You know, so really, the Urban Forest Sustainability Program is about preventing a substantial loss of trees in our community and maintaining the benefits that these urban trees provide. Okay, to retain a sustainable urban forest, certain basic components should be considered for inclusion in a community's urban forest program. These are establishing a tree ordinance and tree board. These provide the legal authority for communities to conduct forestry programs and guide the management of community trees. An urban forest or tree management plan. You know, these include conducting tree inventory, compiling and analyzing tree inventory data, and establishing a work plan and expenses required for things such as pruning, fertilizing, tree planting, and tree removals. The Urban Forest Resiliency Plan. The Resiliency Plan is a new addition to the Urban Forest Program. And it basically picks up where many tree management plans stop or are incomplete when it comes to urban forest sustainability. And the remainder of my presentation will discuss this plan. Moving on to Tree City USA. This is a program that provides direction, technical assistance, public attention, and national recognition for urban communities, and it is sponsored by the Arbor Day Foundation in cooperation with the USDA Forest Service and the New York State DEC Urban and Community Forestry Program. The Relief Program. The Relief Program is a partnership of professional DEC urban foresters with community members and offers classes in site and tree selection, planting and maintenance, community science, also known as citizen science, education and outreach. This is community members getting involved with their urban program, and so volunteers. And it allows them to contribute their talents and perform urban forest skills that they can acquire through webinars, in-person classes, and field-based workshops. And lastly, pocket parks, which you may not be as familiar with. They're more common in the larger cities, but there is definitely spaces that would fit for them in smaller cities and villages. And they're small, usually less than a quarter acre in size. They're open spaces in urban communities, and they serve much of the same function as a city park. And they provide similar social, economic, and environmental benefits to the area that were, to areas that previously weren't serving any purpose at all. They were just like empty lots. Like I said before, these are more commonly in larger cities, but they can be established in smaller urban areas. So what is an urban forest resiliency plan? It is a proactive strategy for urban forest resilience to invasive pests, pathogens, and climate change. The main components of the resiliency plan are the urban forest resiliency assessment and maintaining urban forest health. The urban forest resiliency assessment considers urban forest risks to invasive pests, pathogens, and climate change, the responses to those risks, and the cost of those risks. It's basically a way to determine the level of damage that may occur if a certain pest or pathogen arrives in your community and how climate change will affect your urban forest. It allows you to compare different responses and the costs associated with these responses, and this all being done in a proactive, not reactive manner, which is always the best way to do it. The other component is maintaining urban forest health. And the techniques, it includes techniques such as right tree, right place, which is basically matching urban conditions with tree suitability. Since healthy trees are more resilient trees. It also includes strategies for urban forest resilience to invasive pests and pathogens and to climate change, which I will go into more detail in the next coming slides. So what are the risks to consider? With invasive pests and pathogens, the risks include current ones for the SLELO PRISM region, like emerald ash borer and hemlock woolly adelgid, that target ashes and hemlock respectively, and invasive pests that may be in the area in the future, like spotted lanternfly that targets fruit trees, grapevines, and other hardwoods, and Asian longhorn beetle that targets many species of hardwood, including birches, elms, horse chestnut, maples. All right, risks to consider with climate change. Temperatures are predicted to increase. With greater winter precipitation and larger summer droughts. And this will have a negative impact on many of the northern and boreal tree species we have around here. So we really need to determine which of our trees will do well and which will do poorly. There is a nice source at the USDA Forest Service Climate Change Atlas, it's called, that lists all the trees, and they have models predicting which ones of those tree species will do better or do poorer in the future. Okay, the risks I mentioned should be documented in a spreadsheet or database program, and should include the trees present in your urban forest, the invasive pests and pathogens that may affect them, and then each tree species climate adaptability. The responses to these risks should then be determined, and these could include tree removal and replacement costs, pesticide, fungicide application, or some sort of combination of both. But whatever the response will be, a cost for each response should be considered. In addition, the cost of lost ecosystem services should be calculated. There's a software product called iTree, if you're not familiar with it, that has a benefit analysis tool that can help with this. Basically, after you collect all that data on a spreadsheet, you can wrap it all up in into a resiliency assessment report that can be used by city officials as an information and decision-making tool. And the anticipated costs for the removals, replacements, insecticide treatments can also be used in a community's annual budget proposal. Benefits of proactive approach. Having a resiliency assessment is a proactive approach to dealing with invasive pests, pathogens, and climate change. And the big advantage with using a proactive approach is that it mitigates the risks through advanced planning and funding that will decrease the financial strain that's often associated with a reactive approach. And it decreases the number of vulnerable tree species that community plants. Since everybody's aware of what trees there may not do so well, and they know about diversifying, that tends to decrease the financial impact that comes when an invasive pest shows up in your urban community. All right, my next slides are about the urban forest health component of the plan and focus on strategies to increase resiliency in the urban forest. The first of these is what I call right tree, right place. The focus with this is to carefully match the planting location with a suitable tree species. This increases the likelihood that the tree will be healthy, and as I said before, healthy trees are more resilient trees. To do this, one must consider that each tree species grows best, in the conditions that they are adapted to. So environmental factors such as soil type, pH, salinity, shade tolerance, cold hardiness, etc., at each planting site must be matched with the appropriate tree species. And ultimately, this will save the municipality money and time wasted on trees that do poorly because the matching didn't actually occur when you decided to plant the trees. All right, the next urban forest health strategy is increasing resilience to invasive pests and pathogens. This strategy involves increasing species and age diversity. Increasing species diversity in your urban forest will decrease the chance that a single invasive species will seriously damage your forest. For example, if most of your urban forest consisted of ash trees, then EAB would have taken out most of your urban forest. But if the ash trees were just a small part of a very diverse urban forest, EAB would have little impact. Increasing age diversity is good because it balances the strengths that trees exhibit at different stages of life and limits the number of older trees that are going to die off soon. Take home message with this is more diversity equals more resilience. Next strategy, selecting less vulnerable tree species. Or another way of putting this is to avoid those species that have current invasive pests and pathogen problems. will likely have problems in the future. That is, don't plant hemlocks because HWA's in the area. Don't plant butternuts because that they die of butternut canker. One source I found to help with this was a study published in Global Ecology and Conservation. It lists many trees according to their vulnerability to known invasive pests and pathogens. And lastly, which I have on the slide first, but lastly, the easiest and most cost-effective way of managing invasive pests and pathogens is to catch them early and eradicate them quickly. Eradication methods include application of insecticide or fungicide, or in some cases, like if you had oak wilt disease, it would require tree removals. Next, continuing on with urban forest pests and pathogens resilience. The reference I just mentioned to you, right, from Global Ecology and Conservation lists these 3 species they're as highest for insect and disease vulnerability. So these are the ones that should be avoided, which you probably already know. It's like all the ash trees, the eastern hemlock, and the butternut. 3 species that were low for insect and disease vulnerability and that should be considered for inclusion in your urban forest are pitch pines, river birch, and black gum. There's many other species that rated low, and you could find them in this study, and I'll send you the link there to the study. And since research papers, such as the one I'm mentioning, can become outdated with new invasive species arrival, you should also stay up to date with the latest information from the following organizations: USDA, New York DEC, and of course, SLELO PRISM. All right, the third urban forest health strategy is increasing resilience to the climate change or climate adaptability. This strategy involves 2 you're already familiar with. Those are increasing species diversity. Since trees come in a range of drought and flood tolerance levels, creating a more species diverse urban forest will minimize the risk of substantial tree canopy and ecosystem service loss by distributing the risks amongst multiple species. Pretty much the same principle as I talked about when it came to invasive pests and pathogens. I also mentioned it with pests and pathogens, increasing age diversity. Tree vulnerability varies with age. Younger trees tend to be more tolerant of storm-related winds, while older trees tend to be more drought tolerant. By having a mix of age classes in your urban forest, you're distributing the risks among those age classes and retaining the benefits related to having an urban forest. So basically increasing that diversity minimizes the amount of damage that climate change or any particular invasive pest, pathogen, weather event, what have you, there comes your way. All right, a third strategy is planting climate adaptable trees. Plant trees that grow in a wide variety of conditions, different moisture levels, temperatures, soils, etc. Now, these trees should cope better with the extremes predicted by climate change. So ones that can deal with the drought and heavy rain. If you can find those kind of species, they're great to include your urban forest. Also, select trees at the northern extent of their natural distribution. So these should cope better with predicted warmer temperatures than those trees at the southern end of the range. These qualities and others make certain tree species more climate adaptable than others. Good resources to find out how climate adaptable different tree species are include the USDA Forest Service Climate Change Atlas and a paper in New Forest by Potter, Crane, and Hargrove, which I said before you'll get the links for. All right. Okay. Maintaining urban forest, increase species diversity with natives. When increasing species diversity, there are many tree species, both native and non-native, that may be placed into your urban environment. According to their suitability, that is. I ask that you consider some of the native tree species for the following reasons. They support the local wildlife. Native trees provide food and shelter for native butterflies, insects, birds, other animals, and are preferred by native animals. They are low maintenance. According to the New York State DEC website, when compared to non-natives, natives require less water, little to no fertilizer, little to no pesticides, less pruning, and thus less of your time. They're also unlikely to be invasive or overly competitive with other native plants. That last statement, as you see, came from the U.S. Forest Service. All right. Before I end the presentation today, I also want you to be aware that most non-native tree species are not invasive. And they may be planted in your community to increase species diversity and resilience to invasive pest, pathogen, and climate change. But there are a few of them that are, and these should be avoided. The IMAP invasive website, which I'll give you the link for, it lists the tree species that are known to spread into native communities, such as forests or riparian corridors. Some examples there of invasive tree species that should be avoided are tree of heaven, Norway maple, and black locust. And the last area that I want to talk to you about today is the benefit of pocket parks. And briefly go over it again here. What is a pocket park? It's basically a small version of a regular park, usually a quarter acre or less in size. It's often created in vacant lots by community groups, private entities, or foundations for the benefit of the neighborhood. They may be used as an event space, a play area, place to relax or meet friends, or for lunch breaks. And they have many benefits to urban areas. And these range from aesthetic, such as renovating rundown areas, to economic, such as saving additional money through increased ecosystem services like heating and cooling costs, to environmental, such as increased habitat for wildlife, to social benefits like decreased crime. Using areas that were serving no purpose as pocket parks also increases the size of your urban forest. And if the strategies that were mentioned in this presentation are applied, will further increase your urban forest resilience to the invasive pest, pathogen, and climate change. These parks, though, do require community involvement to get established and keep maintained, but I think they're worth considering for any community. 。 right. This concludes my presentation. Thank you. Please visit the SLELO website for the Urban Forest Sustainability Guide, which goes into more detail about the program and for other urban forest resources. I hope this gave you a few good ideas for increasing resiliency of Massena's urban forest. Thank you. Is there any questions?
No,
No?
Robert?
Yeah, I think we've been doing some of these things already. We've been certainly reacting to the, I'm gonna try to get, there I am. We're trying to react to the emerald ash borer. The biggest, one of the biggest challenges we have in building our urban forest is we have a lot of postage stamp properties, very small properties,
Mhm.
underground as well as overhead utilities to navigate, coupled with you know, we're plowing in these areas. The residents are plowing snow in these areas. So we have salt, we have snow, we have limited space. I think the homes were built around, when they were built, there were trees there. But now as those homes have gotten older, and the trees have come down, and there's not a willingness to plant. Some of the trees that we've taken down are emerald ash or ash trees, but we've also had trouble with silver maples because they've gotten into water lines. So, but anyway, this was a good idea, and you know, as we're coming out of COVID, this is the first time any portion of our Arbor Committee has gotten together. So this was good, and you know, getting $5,000 for it for our activities is certainly appreciated.
Oh yeah, we're happy to provide this program. You know, if you want to, you know, go into, you know, more details and discuss, you know, what's, you know, specific areas or looking for any recommendations or anything question you have, please like give me a call or send me an email. You know, that's really a big part of my job, and I enjoy doing this. This is actually a second career for me. I'm retired Army, and I went back to school to do exactly this. So
Oh, cool.
I love doing this. This is like being paid for a hobby for me. So I really love doing this, and so please use me as a resource.
All right, Robert, I will. And I'll, yeah, there are a couple challenges we have, and I'll talk to you here in the next couple of weeks and get with these guys. But thanks for your time, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Okay. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week.
No.